Hey everybody, Josh Sigurdson of World Alternative Media here, and will Justin Trudeau be forced to resign as Prime Minister of Canada? There are many cases currently being made for his resignation, and there's no doubt that very few people actually take him seriously, never mind have any confidence in him. His approval ratings continuously tank. It seems the numbers come in lower by the month. Everyone is currently talking about the SNC-Lavalin scandal right now, and I knew I'd be forced to talk about it eventually, soon. Usually I dodge the stories that mainstream media pumps into our heads day in and day out, as they're usually distractions. But it's getting to the point where it could actually have a significant impact. It's not that it's not an important story, because it is. I mean, it's government intervening in other people's affairs. Really, that's just what the government does. Their purpose is to intervene in people's lives and make things more difficult and corrupted. But anyways, that's not the point. Liberal Party MP and former Minister of Justice and Attorney General Jody Wilson-Raybould came out against Justin Trudeau the other day and testified against him after about a week of speculation that she inevitably would. That's right, one of the top people at the Liberal Party testified against the Prime Minister. This is pure gold. It's kind of like a lackey coming out against the organized crime boss in front of the pawns, embarrassing the boss and causing the pawns to rise up against him. It's hilarious. But anyways, she testified in regards to the SNC-Lavalin case. SNC-Lavalin was facing corruption charges for having contracts in Libya and was attempting to lobby for a remediation agreement instead of facing criminal punishment. SNC-Lavalin is based in Quebec, and Trudeau felt that it needed to be protected, allegedly to stop job losses in the province. Trudeau's riding is in Quebec. Let's look at this article from the state-run media CBC, which I usually rip to shreds, but hey, I substantiated the claims, so we're all good. As the article says, Wilson-Raybould says she faced pressure, veiled threats on SNC-Lavalin. Scheer calls on Prime Minister to resign. And as the article goes into, Jody Wilson-Raybould says she faced intense political pressure and veiled threats related to the SNC-Lavalin affair, and was warned directly by Prime Minister Justin Trudeau about the negative consequences if the company faced prosecution. It was a day of high political drama as the former Justice Minister and Attorney General accused top Liberal government officials of inappropriate, excessive political interference in an independent criminal prosecution, and the opposition parties called for Trudeau's resignation and a public inquiry into the scandal. Testifying at the Commons Justice Committee Wednesday, Wilson-Raybould said she was contacted by 11 officials in the Prime Minister's office, the Privy Council office, and Finance Minister Bill Morneau's office while she was Justice Minister and Attorney General about the Quebec-based engineering and construction company. And I quote, "For a period of 4 months from September to December 2018, I experienced a consistent and sustained effort by many people within the government to seek to politically interfere in the exercise of prosecutorial discretion in my role as the Attorney General of Canada in an inappropriate effort to secure a deferred prosecution agreement, DPA, with SNC-Lavalin." Wilson-Raybould said she was hounded by various officials through phone calls, meetings, and text messages. Within these conversations, there were express statements regarding the necessity of interfering in the SNC-Lavalin matter, the potential of consequences, and veiled threats if a DPA was not made available to SNC-Lavalin, she said. The corporation faced a 10-year ban on bidding on government contracts if convicted of the criminal charges of bribery. Wilson-Raybould chronicled a series of meetings, including one with Trudeau and Privy Council clerk Michael Wernick on September 17, 2018. She told him that she had made a decision not to overturn the decision from the director of the Public Prosecution Service, Kathleen Roussel, to proceed with criminal prosecution against SNC-Lavalin. The Prime Minister cited potential job losses and the possible move by the company and asked her to help out. The clerk then made the case for a DPA and reminded her that there was an election coming in Quebec. At that point, the Prime Minister jumped in, stressing that there is an election in Quebec and that I am an MP in Quebec, the MP for Papineau, she recounted. I was quite taken aback. At that point, Wilson-Raybould said she posed a direct question to Trudeau while looking him straight in the eye, asking if he was politically interfering with her role and her decision as the Attorney General. I would strongly advise against it, she told the committee. She warned Trudeau, who responded, no, we just need to find a solution, Andrew Scheer, head of the Conservative Party, called on Trudeau to resign immediately and also called on the RCMP to open an investigation. Jagmeet Singh said that Trudeau may well have to resign. Trudeau waved off calls for resignation. One thing he didn't do was deny the charges. He said this, and I quote, "I strongly maintain, as I have from the beginning, that I and my staff always acted appropriately and professionally," he said during an event in Montreal late Wednesday. And therefore, I completely disagree with the characterization of the former Attorney General about these events. So the characterization is wrong, according to Trudeau. So it must just be a misunderstanding? Yeah, right. It's always interesting to see Trudeau claim that they act appropriately. When I confronted him at a press conference in 2017 and famously ended up calling him a scumbag after hours of dealing with Liberal Party officials and their nonsense, his people told the media that they must only ask him one of about 5 questions. Trudeau had a script with answers ready for those questions. All the medias, except for myself, agreed. Is that appropriate and professional? We could go into his inappropriate and unprofessional conduct, including allegedly with women, another day. Trudeau says he hasn't decided Wilson-Raybould's fate yet. He mentioned on Thursday that she can be ousted from the party for not having confidence in his leadership. Yeah, the damage control is on steroids right now. I don't think he knows what on earth to do. Maybe Sophie will sing him a lullaby and fix everything for him while he hides under his comforter and wishes it all just goes away. Look, the fact that the populace can be so mad over this obvious infringement, yet not see controversy in the state stealing more than half of everyone's money on average through taxation to pay off the interest on the debt and pay pharmaceutical rackets and bomb manufacturers, says a lot about how indoctrinated the populace has become. Is this story serious? Yes. Should he resign? Yes. But what difference does it truly make? Do you actually think Trudeau is making decisions? He can hardly tie his own shoes. He's far too dumb to be making decisions, and that's the point. People vote for figureheads, talking heads with nice hair to lead them, while the real so-called leaders work behind the scenes. You want to replace him with what? Another talking head to tell you how you should live your life? What right does an individual have to collectively enforce their will on other people anyways? It's so absurd that we've been so incredibly generally brainwashed through school and media to just accept that the organized crime racket, which we see act as an organized crime racket regularly, rules us, and that there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. This coercive force only benefits from our servitude and apathy. They only thrive from the extortion of the masses and the constantly growing frog boil that is the control constructs that restrain us. But those chains are so revered by so many, and when one gets uncomfortable with one kind of ball and chain, they demand another. Maybe they can be pink this time. It's all nonsense. Good ideas do not require force. Individual demand on the market decides what's best for people with true, fair, and square market demand. Not giant monopolies propped up by the state through regulations, taxes, and legislation, as we can see to an extent with this SNC-Lavalin case. Of course the opposition parties chomp at the bit. Of course Trudeau's an idiot. But going back to ancient Greece, we've been replacing these morons with other morons, and then we get sick of them and demand a new moron to do as they're told and restrict our free will in one way or another. Collectivism begets collectivism. You cannot cure cancer with cancer. Notice how all the problems people ask government to fix were inevitably created by government in the first place? How's that working out for us after thousands of years? Enough is enough. Rule yourself. Decentralize your life. Be responsible. Freedom is responsibility. It's nothing more. We can replace the state one piece at a time with alternatives on the blockchain or just private free market demand where businesses have to actually count on individual demand to compete. In the case of the government, they do something stupid and spend 10,000 times more money than is necessary for a project. Your stolen funds and the outrage of the public just changes the figurehead, but the racket continues. No competition for the best product at the best price necessary. When it comes to the state, imagine that. We have been taught to believe that free market capitalism, voluntary exchanges of goods and services, and working hard is greed. Yet it's quote unquote fair to steal the money of the populace to fund things a small amount of the population likes. So it's greed to do things fairly, but it's fair to steal people's money to fund crap that no one wants because you want mommy and daddy government to extort people for your dumb ideas? Look, folks, I understand we will never all get along. We can't. It's impossible. But for God's sakes, we will simply perpetuate this divide mentality forever with the use of the organized crime racket we call government to the point where one day we will end up destroying ourselves. It's counterproductive. It's the Hegelian dialectic of problem, reaction, solution, repeat forever. We may as well just create our own realities outside of the state and opt in and out of what we wish as voluntary, free, responsible individuals. People often say that there are too many bad people out there for us to be free. So we should put bad people into places of power with a collective gun at the heads of the masses to enforce their will on us? Government? The greatest murderer in the history of the world? The greatest polluter, the greatest thief, the greatest propagandists, the greatest kidnapper, the entity that has killed hundreds of millions over the last century has the moral high ground here? The entity that depends on the dependence of the populace and prints vast sums of money, inflating the price of living, has a moral high ground over simple free market, voluntary demand, and infrastructure based on individual demand? Think about it, folks. You're being lied to. You're being brainwashed. You're being clashed against each other for the sake of sacrificing you as a pawn for the king and the queen. You're divided and yelling at each other instead of looking at the real enemies of mankind, the state, the banking system, the entities that control you and make you work day in and day out only for this organized crime racket to come in and steal more than half of your damn money. Not to mention the purchasing power you lose due to the legal tender laws. It's sick and demented, and you need to break free. I beg you to please break free. Don't wait until it's too late. This story is a distraction. It's theater. It's meant to drive you towards another political party. Change the flavor, but the ingredients stay the same. Pepsi, Coke, red, blue, both are bad for you, but you got to pick your identity, right? Or do you? Thanks for watching, everyone. We'll be back at you with much more here at WHAM. This is Josh Sigurdson signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change. Like what you see here at WHAM, don't forget to check the links below. GoFundMe, Patreon. We can't do it without you. Any donation is very much appreciated, especially as we are so heavily demonetized and censored by YouTube as these guys come in and flag all of our content as hate speech. The shadow banning is getting really bad, guys. Also, check our Bitcoin address right here on the screen or in the description below. We really appreciate it. And of course, check us out at the Red Pill Expo 2019. Of course, the great G. Edward Griffin and so many other incredible speakers will be there. Our link for that is below as well. And we cannot forget Mike Maloney's goldsilver.com, which you can also find in the description. One of the greatest market and monetary historians out there. We really encourage everyone to check that out. But until next time, this is Josh Sigurdson signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change.
I'm sure you have already changed people's minds in your young age because you're involved, and I like that.